As a business analyst, whenever we are implementing generative AI, especially on our business processes, so how different the role of a business analyst and where this generative AI concept can be implemented as part of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So these are the classifications because the stages of business analyst activities will be divided into these parts. We know one is on the requirement gathering phase, followed by process analysis, requirement validation, solution designs. These are the different knowledge areas, more or less, like we can say. So when it comes to the requirement gathering and understanding, being a business analyst, when we are collecting any business requirements, uh, when or else not only the gathering of business requirements and collecting business requirements, even if you want to extract any kind of key requirements and all. So this has to be documented, right? So when we want to document something, then we need to create some business requirements document in the way of regular BA that we do. So here we need to implement generative AI, implementing generative AI based upon the kind of pattern that we design. So whatever the required machine learning pattern that we created. So based on the pattern that we create, automatically these requirements will be classified and these requirements will be updated in the document itself. So when we are gathering the requirements, understanding based upon the interaction we have with stakeholder, understanding the situation, understanding the scenario is what generative AI can be done on its own without having any kind of human intervention as specific. Next, process analysis and data understanding. This is in context to the kind of projects we are working from the data perspective. Two things, one is on the requirement perspective and second is about the data perspective. Because process analysis, because understanding about two different processes as in when we know, okay? Because the first one, as we know, which is called as is process, okay? As is process is something that we create first, which is nothing but the existing system, we call it as. Second, we are developing the to-be system. To-be system, nothing but the proposed or the target system that we are developing now. So whatever the transformation, for example, there was a situation where existing application was stated. Now we are transforming from existing system to new cloud or on-premise services that we are developing. So when we are transforming from one system to another system, understanding about the existing system followed by the kind of features and functionalities and how it performs and how it functions must be known. That has to be addressed by as a BA, we know. Followed by this, what solution are we going to provide? Something comes under the to be part. So understanding about these two is called gap analysis, as in when we know. Okay. So mapping the differences between the as is and as less the target system, whatever that we do, that can be done using generative AI, right? So because we can create a pattern for as is process followed by the to be process, so that generative AI can generate the process flows automatically between two different systems. Normally, we prepare multiple tools to do that and interacting with stakeholders, right? So we try to understand all that. So, but here what we can do, we can take the mapping the current process of as a system can be taken so that using generative AI, we can generate the process flows automatically. This can be done using generative AI as a BA. Next, we can identify the bottlenecks and the gaps because based upon the two different systems that we have taken or the kind of data we have taken from the as is to be system, whatever the kind of gaps, either it can be a functional gap, it can be a non-functional, or it can be security related and all, right? So identifying the bottlenecks or gaps based upon the historical data that we have presented for generative AI can be done using generative AI as a business analyst under process and analysis and data understanding is concerned. Next one about requirement validation and all. Yeah, right. So next one about the requirement validation. For example, when we are as a business analyst, when we are interacting with customers and all, we need to engage with business teams so that we will be validating what requirements that are to be implemented and all. So if we have, whenever whatever the interaction we had with business teams, if you can generate, if we can give this information to generative AI, so generative AI will generate automatically what if scenario, like what if condition will be presented there. For example, if this is a business situation, what if the solution was not given? So what kind of conditions which may prevail? So based on that, what kind of solution is rightly desirable? So that sort of scenario understanding will be given by the generative AI. So for that, we have already a lot of tools, brainstorming, and as well as mind mapping techniques. All these we are using in the regular BA role. But in spite of doing those things manually means interacting with stakeholders and other business team members, we can do. So generative AI can generate what if scenarios, everything can be generated. Next, it also create whatever the questions that are to be asked for stakeholders and all. You don't need to plan anything bias in regular intervals manually. Generative AI can create question and answers which are something suitable for stakeholders and all, so that we can understand about the perception, their expectations, what their expectations, everything can be known. So requirement validation and clarification can be done by taking minimum inputs from the stakeholders. Using generative AI, we can do that. So even what scenarios, everything can be generated. Even Q&A, because clarity for a BA is more important. So that can be done using generative AI. Next is solution design. That is where generally we call it as to be process in continuation to the existing one, as I told you, because we need to define the future state. What must be the future requirements, right? So how the application should transform to the next level. At the same, for that, what kind of user stories and acceptance criteria is to be written. For that, we generally write these in Jira, or else it can be in Rally, it can be Azure DevOps, right? So different tools we are using. So this usually we write using different methods like Jenkins method, all that. But using generative AI, what we can do, we can draft user stories and acceptance criteria. At the same time, to create mock-ups and workflows and all, we normally use Balsamiq tool, etc., to draw that. So that even can be done using generative AI. At the same time, it also can suggest us the test data, whatever is required, everything can be suggested by the generative AI itself. Next, test planning and QA support, because this is with reference to the QA team. When we have interacting as a BA, we need to prepare test cases based upon the use cases that we understood. Test cases can be prepared here, so that the test cases can be updated using Jiffer tool in Jira. Now and then, we are following one of the tool that we do. So that can be incorporated into generative AI, so that generative AI can automatically generate test scenarios and test cases, wherein that we need not write those manually, right? So we can only, because that saves us time. Okay. At the same time, it also maps the requirement. That's where generally requirement traceability matrix come into picture, because tracing the requirements between use case to test case. So mapping of requirements can be done using traceability matrix. So there, that also can be done using generative AI. Next, implementation and UAT support, because end of the day, when we have deployed the application, before you are delivering a particular solution to the customer, we need to perform user acceptance testing in the customer environment, so that we make sure and we make it very clear what are all the expectation customer has, how to what extent we have delivered so far, everything can be done. So that coordination of user acceptance testing can be done using generative AI, wherein it create UAT scripts, etc., everything. At the same time, it also analyzes automatically whatever the logs, defect logs, if there is anything were there, everything will be identified by the generative AI itself. Next, deployment and change, right? So deployment and change, where there is any kind of deployment or changes that we are doing, so that solution, whatever the solution, desired business or technical solution that we have identified, that can be deployed. If there is any change management, if if there is anything of that sort, that can be suggested even. Followed by this, continuous improvement is a common basic thing which normally we do, right? So this is where generally generative AI, implementation of generative AI in the role of a business analyst is can happen. Okay, can happen, can transform. So as a BA, when we are working on, as far as the regular process of learning as a BA, so implementing and incorporating generative AI, these are the benefits or these are the differences wherein we can see. That's what are we learning in our sessions.